Right now, I'm in Kingston, Ontario. I've been here a couple days now, and today I'm gonna go check out the Kingston Penitentiary, the prison here, which was built in 1835 and basically had inmates up until about 12 years ago in 2013, and then they officially closed it down. But now they've turned it into a museum, so I'm gonna do a tour of that today, check that out. I figured that'd be kind of cool to check out, and the tour is like an hour and a half long, so I feel like it's a pretty big prison, but that's the plan today. Go check that out, see what that's all about. Also, apparently it's a very haunted prison. I don't know if I believe in any of that stuff, but we'll see how this goes. I just finished the tour, which was pretty interesting. It was, yeah, about an hour and a half. I think I said that before. But it was really cool. The prison was basically open for like 178 years. And over those 178 years had like 30,000 different inmates. Basically the tour, we had one tour guide that brought us through the whole prison in different rooms and everything. And then in a lot of different rooms, they had people that actually worked at the prison at one point, whether they were guards or like doctors and nurses and whatnot, and they would kind of tell some of their stories of while they worked here and how things worked. Obviously things worked a little differently when they first opened in 1835 compared to in more recent years, like 2000 to 2013 when they closed. At first the whole prison was basically just male inmates, and then in more previous years they also had female inmates. They were obviously kept in separate sections of the prison, but they had both. Throughout the day, they basically, all the inmates were in their cells for 23 hours, and then they only had 1 hour to go out into the yard. And they did have a decent sized yard, which we got to walk through and check out. They had it's not there anymore, but at the time when the prison was open, they had a baseball diamond in there and a grass field, so they had an hour to go outside basically, and then back in their cell. When they weren't in their cell, other than going outside, they would basically do jobs, and local companies would basically hire them because it was cheap labor, and the inmates wanted to do work because it got them out of their cells into different workshops and whatnot, making a bunch of different things. Mostly I think it was like mattresses. Inmates made mattresses. When the prison first opened and they were working, they basically got 6 cents a day for work, and then now more recently it's up to $5 a day, and that money basically gets put on their account and they can buy stuff for their cell, TVs, radios, CD players, that kind of thing. The prison itself is fairly big, and it's basically surrounded by a 34-foot block wall with barbed wire and stuff on top. Initially it wasn't that tall. They used to be only 12 feet high, and a lot of the buildings and whatnot in the prison were built by the inmates. Over time, more and more buildings were built for different things. One was, yeah, all the workshops. One was basically where all the cells were, where the inmates stayed. Another one is where, like, the medical building and all the doctors and everything were in there. At one point, they would actually do operations in the prison here. Now, or in more recent years, they actually transfer the inmates to a local hospital, and they do bigger operations. But yeah, so there was a lot of different buildings to kind of check out and walk through and see how that all kind of worked. There was a lot more deaths in the prison in the earlier years when it was open from diseases, because it would spread very quickly throughout the prison, and there wasn't a lot of medicine back in the early 1800s, or that wasn't as effective as nowadays. So towards the end of the prison while it was open, there was a lot more suicide, and people just died of old age if they were serving a life sentence. Over the years that the prison was open, there was quite a few different riots. The most recent one was 1971, which they mainly talked about, where inmates basically took 6 guards hostage, and then they also went into basically the section where all rapists and child molesters were, and they basically took those inmates and started beating them and actually killed a few of them. This was all during the riot. And then after about 4 days, the army came in and basically shut the whole thing down, and the riot ended there. And all 6 guards were alive by the end of it. 2 of them retired, 2 of them had PTSD from the whole situation, and 2 of them ended up finishing their career. They also talked about the one and only inmate that escaped in the entirety of the prison being open, which happened in 1999, where the prisoner basically created a ladder tall enough to get up the 34-foot wall and climb over it, and he was on the run for about 4 weeks before he ended up shooting himself, I think, because the police caught him. And that was the only one they ever had that escaped out of the entirety that the prison was open. So that was really cool walking through there. It was really interesting having people that actually worked in the prison at one point, and now they're retired and they come do these tours. So that was really cool. Yesterday, I didn't really do that much filming last night after I checked out the prison yesterday. Basically just edited another video, and I got to my camp spot pretty late, and it was dark, and I basically just went to bed. So today I'm gonna head out of Kingston. I've been here a couple days now, so heading out and gonna head over to Brockville, Ontario. The one thing I wanted to check out there was Canada's first railway tunnel, which is not in use anymore, so now they kind of turned it into a touristy spot, which I thought would be kind of cool to check out. So that's the plan, head over there out of Kingston, drive for a bit. It's only about an hour, so should be not that long of a drive. It's pretty good, so let's go. now I'm walking back to the other side again. The tunnel was finished in 1860 and it took about 6 years to build. It's 1,730 feet long, so it's a pretty long tunnel, which is kind of cool. Now it's just open. And as you can see above me, mining shafts to get all the rock and stuff out when they were blasting it, which is kind of cool. They also have street signs throughout the whole tunnel, so you can see kind of where you're at compared to outside. So that's kind of cool. And lots of water seeping through the walls with a bunch of minerals and stuff coming out. The roots. Just finished checking out the railway tunnel, which was pretty cool, and then I spent some time walking around downtown here. There's a lot of different stores and cafes and all that kind of stuff, so did that for a bit. Plan now is to find my camp spot for tonight. There's some spots around here, so shouldn't have to drive too far, but that's the plan, go find my camp spot. Made it to my camp spot for tonight, a little local parking lot. I don't know if you can even see the van parked behind me, but there's a nice little trail on the other side of the road. Should be quiet night, hopefully, and then hit the road again tomorrow morning. Just had dinner, so that's all done. Probably gonna head to bed soon, so I'm gonna end the video there. See you in the next one.